Hi, this is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. So I'm very happy to go through my new book, the watercolor work from Trevor Chamberlain, with you. So I came to know Trevor's work through Andy Evenson. So you probably know that Andy Evenson, he's one of my favorite watercolor artists, and I am currently still learning a lot of stuff from Andy. And through Andy, I came to know his work. And after seeing some of his work, I can immediately tell why Andy is really into his work because I see a lot of influence from Trevor to Andy's painting. So let's go through some of the work and then we can start to talk about those. And hopefully you can also see the connection, and I'll try to analyze some of the work, some of the painting that I see. So hopefully we can all learn something together. Okay, so beautiful painting. We're gonna see a lot of that. And just by looking at this, you can already see that in Trevor Chamberlain, his work, the sense of lighting from his painting is just really beautiful. So the sense of lighting and the overall shape, design, and the composition, just by looking at this, you can see the beautiful lighting and how he loosely suggests all the forms and shape, same thing as here, with simple and yet powerful shape design in his painting. And you can also see like the scale and the overall composition, just really, really beautiful. So I can zoom in a little bit so you can see. This book, by the way, is a used book. So I think this specific version of the book is out of print. So I was managed to get a used one from Amazon. And luckily this is in a very decent conditions, almost like new. So a little bit of crease here and there, but it's not too bad. Okay, so also beautiful wet onto wet work of this misty, foggy scenery. Again, beautiful light fill sceneries. So I think wet on wet technique is definitely something that he does a lot, and so does Andy. And I'm starting to do more wet onto wet work and trying to bring out the light of the watercolor. So this is a very important page for me. So this specific painting is two paintings, both done by him, but I believe he painted this one when he was 12, and this is after he's much more mature when he's an adult, and I'm pretty sure this is the same scenery. So even though this is a 12-year-old and he probably painted much better than me when I was 12, but it also kind of reminds us that we all start somewhere, right? No matter when do you start it, and no matter which master do you admire, they all start somewhere. Like we don't born with master knowing how to paint. Like nobody born a master, right? We all start as a student, we all start from learning how to paint, and then we grow our skill and we grow our taste and everything, and we start to become a better artist by just keep working on it. So this is a little bit sidetracked. I also have my old paintings, and it just serves a reminder that we all start somewhere. Like my early paintings, nothing spectacular, and when I was looking at this, I was wondering, what in the world am I doing? Why do I paint like this and all that? And it's hard to kind of see yourself progress sometime, because it's kind of like when you have a kid, at least I certainly do. And I see them every day. So for me, their growths are kind of incremental. But when I look at their baby photo and I look at them now, it's like, wow, you grew a lot. And that really put us in perspective. So I think these two paintings really just like a really good example of showing the start of your journey. And this might not be the end, but when you are reaching a certain milestone, like the amount of the progress you make. So I encourage you to look at some of the old painting that you have and just see how far you come along. So this is a very encouraging thing to me. Like no matter how how good a master is, they all start somewhere. Okay, so let's move on. Speak a little bit too much in this page. Okay, so I think this is one of his early work. He's still trying to paint a lot of details and stuff, but there's already starting to have a little bit more depths going on. This is probably one of his charcoal sketches. I mean, here we started to see that his work's starting to have this sense of light. And if we look at this a little bit closer, just look at the treatment of the sky, definitely a lot of wet onto wet. And if you look at this part, he's not afraid to let things kind of blend into each other. He just let this light bleed into the background. And this wet onto wet treatment is definitely something that Andy does, and something that I'm starting to try to do as well, to keep things simple but powerful. So in the sense of shape design, if you kind of squint your eyes, you can see this major shape from the side connect to the figures and towers of this buildings in the back, and the shadow that this building cast. Actually quite a very simple shape, but overall it's just turned into like a very beautiful picture. Let's continue, look at it. Very nice, very loose indicated, beautiful trees, plants here, bows here, and again see just this amount of this sense of looseness, this lost and found edges here. Very, very loose painting, but very, very beautiful and very effective as well. Look at this flag. It's just like 3-stroke, and that's pretty much it. Okay. Wonderful picture. Yeah, this looks a little bit like his early work though. I didn't read all the texts, but so this is what I kind of suspecting. A lot of figures, and yet there's some looseness inside of this. And again, if you squint your eyes, all the figures and stuff, they blend into this shape. So is some of his figures. So he's able to separate his figures, these figures from the backgrounds. So despite they are kind of similar in value, but this really subtle value changes really pop these people out against the background. So the sense of depth is also pretty good. Really like the composition here, really like the scale, like the people down here versus the huge architecture buildings back there. And again, like the sense of looseness. There's probably a lot of detail with this building, but he just very simply just very loosely indicate all this with just few single brushstroke, and the form pops out. Like look at this rooftop, just a strong sense of lighting here. Same thing here, very loosely indicated all this detail, just couple brushstrokes. A couple brushstroke for the figures, and even nice little pigeons and stuff. Just very, very nice, cool, loose painting. Very beautiful light-filled painting. I hope they didn't make a splash page like this, lose some detail here. But just how simple he's able to compose a painting into, yet so effective. The light feels so real. It feels the richness of the lighting here. So if you look at the trees here, I bet this tree have thousands of leaves, but he just treated it as one single shape with wet onto wet. And again, take a look at this. Like this is just like negative shape into this space. Like look at all the shadows that he paint and leave out this white, this light. So you can immediately tell the form of this building. These are like columns against the space. There's some depths in there, and just a little bit of color changes from warm to cool. So like the bounce light from the ground, there's a little bit more bounce light up here, maybe the interior or something, and the shadow turns a little bit cooler down here. It's so simple, it's very simply stated, but there's so much richness in all these simple indications that he did. And all these quick little figures, like the sense of colors and lighting is simply beautiful. And like the reflections, very loose, but with the wet onto wet shapes, it just did a lot of the detail. hinted in all these washes. And if we look at this as a whole again, look at how simple shape is. Like the back is like this dark shape, and that connects to this shadow shape over here, and this shadow also kind of leads your eyes into it, and this serves as a nice foreground element against the background there. Beautiful cloudscape with very simple ships, just serve the huge scale of the scenery. Beautiful architecture as well. Like, I think the sense of scale in his paintings is always really good. Look how small the figure is compared to that huge buildings. You can really feel the sense of the scale. This is a very beautiful painting. Very, very simple. All his paintings are very simple. But look at how effective it looks. Like you can feel like the rain and the misty here. And his reflection, unlike Joseph's Bookfish, his reflection is much more subtle, but still it works. So there's different ways to paint the same sceneries, and his way is definitely very, very effective as well. I really like this, actually, just very quiet, very subtle. And let's take a look at another one. Yeah, a lot of this beautiful golden hour lighting, like the reflection of on the water and the buildings in the back. Is just one single shape right here. There's no detail needed, but it just feels so rich. And that's something that an artist, Chen Zhongwei, he always says, don't paint the detail, paint the riches. So this is definitely something that I can spot in Trevor's painting. Just so much richness in all of his shapes, yet it's very simple. There's not a lot of details, but you can feel the richness inside of here. So some figure works. This is a beautiful painting, beautiful bold composition. Like the face, typically when we paint a figure, which is actually like this figure is actually quite large, in this painting, but there's not a lot of detail in his face. It's just very simple brushstroke, a little bit of dark within the dark, so you can kind of spot where the eyes is, the mustache is, and things like that. But it's very, very effective. It actually feels kind of realistic in a way, very believable. So the whole, the overall shape design of the painting, you see this big shape, and this somewhat connects to this main figure right here, and this ring figure connects to this interior of the probably a boat, and that connects to the shadow on his legs, and the little pockets of light here. This just brings out so much vibrancy, so much bright, so much glow in this figure. And the background is mostly stay in the light side, maybe a little bit of middle value, mostly on the light. And you can see like the sail. I'm pretty sure there's wrinkles and stuff in real life, but we need that. So that's why you just leave like an empty negative shape here. And it's so effective. Like you can really feel the depths here. Just beautiful wet onto wet, like almost have this like dreamlike quality of the light to it. Again, richness. I'm just gonna keep saying that word because I don't know any other word that really describes this. Just the amount of richness in his painting, in his simple paintings. Okay, beautiful desert sceneries. Again, the sense of scale. Look at the camels are big. Camels are really big. I saw them in person too. Like they're way taller than a person, and they're huge. But yet in this painting, you can feel like how big the scenery is because the man on the camel, it really shows the scale. And again, it's all about the shape that he's able to paint, like how simple this camel is, but you can really tell it's a camel. Okay, the other painting, this is definitely a beautiful painting. I think it's the painting on the cover, right? Yeah, it is. Beautiful lighting. Like again, how simple his background is. There's pretty much just like a flat shape. There's not a lot of different colors and stuff. His color palettes are very, very simple. Okay, I should say. Like, but it's very effective. Just warm and cool. Very, very effective. And the main focus is definitely like the boat in the middle. And I speak of composition before. Usually I don't put the main subject in the middle of the painting, but in this case it works. He put it in the middle, but look at their sail. It goes into different directions. So you can argue that the main focus is actually more like here. My eyes goes here more, just because of the contrast he created. And just look at the edge treatment here. Like he didn't need to outline the sail or anything, but just this empty space, this edge difference, it makes you just kind of complete a painting with your mind, which is one of the most powerful thing for me as a painter, is that you paint something and the viewer completes the picture in their mind. So that leaves a lot of room for imagination, and it just feels, it's like tasting good food. You just put it in your mouth and you can really taste it and, really savors it. Again, huge, scale reference right here. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And oh, I love this. This is so beautiful. My hand getting in the way, sorry. But again, like, richness, the sense of richness in all the trees. Look at all the value and the color changes. I mean, it's mostly in the middle and the dark value, but look at all the color changes that he is doing, just making it have so much varieties within that shape. I'm gonna use a pencil instead of my finger. And yeah, just look at that figure. It's just really, really beautiful. Again, he used the negative space and just preserved the light on the figure. Really just bring her out from all the shape. And I really like this card just because that he doesn't simply just paint some dark there. He actually take a little bit of care and add some warmth into it, maybe as burnt sienna or whatever it is. But you can feel like kind of like this sandy, glowing quality of this car. I really like the color, really like his treatment on it. It's almost feel like this car got a little bit of dust on it, or maybe a little bit of rust or something like that. But you can just feel like the texture on this car really well. And because of the lightness, a little bit of warmth on this car, you can all feel like the light is really shining on this car. And see all the windows, just a little bit of indication, a little bit of shadow here, a little bit of shadow here, and just one stroke here to indicate the glass here too. See, he doesn't even complete the window shape as a flat square. There's sometimes I still make that mistake. I just paint like a really complete flat rectangle when I'm painting a window. But sometimes, just a little bit of looseness, a little bit more free, a little bit of broken shape, it actually makes better. And this little subtle darkness is the shadow from the tree. I can definitely feel like the shadow, the tree, this large tree, casting a shadow to the house, on the curb, and to the house, and onto the wall of the house. It's simply beautiful. It's such a simple image, but it says so much. Okay. Nice, beautiful paintings. I need to go over this a little bit faster. I'm only halfway through. But again, simple shape, nice scale reference. Again, simple shape, but the depths that his painting has is really wonderful, really beautiful. Beautiful composition as well. Two trees that kind of frames the building here. Okay, and again, the simplicity of the shape. There's not a lot of it. He doesn't even have a lot of dry brush stroke. I think a lot of artists, when they paint trees, they leave a lot of dry brush mark, which is great, but Trevor doesn't really do that. He uses a little bit, but he do a lot more wet onto wet. And I think that just gives the overall painting even more sense of light and atmosphere. Beautiful golden colors and everything. Got all the cows and animals. Look at this tree. Look at this, not tree, sorry. Look at this cloud. It's really puffy clouds, and it works. And here's the thing, he's not afraid of wet edges and stuff. He's not afraid of imperfection, should I say. Like sometimes when we try to do a painting, we try so hard to make every edges and every mark perfect, but he doesn't really care about that. He doesn't really afraid of imperfection. He just paint that and the overall picture works. And this almost add this little bit of imperfection almost make it looks like sort of like a visual style of some sort, almost give it a little bit more subtle, feels a little bit more profound even. Okay, same thing here, very, very beautiful. This light pops out, everything else kind of in the middle value and a little bit indication of dark value too. So yeah, definitely something that Andy has been teaching me and something that Andy has been doing as well, which is to simplify value. Now, I don't know if Trevor does value study, but I'm won't be surprised if he actually did, or maybe that's something Andy came up with. But it's definitely something that's works very well. Middle value, and within that middle value, dark values, have a little bit of light preserved there. Super simple painting, yet very, very beautiful, and feels there's a lot of richness in it. Beautiful reflections on the beach here as well. Look at ripples, so simple. You can get how simple that is. Like, I think even his brushstroke, sometimes I feel his brushstroke is actually a little bit too rough for me. He just like his brushstroke is not so delicate, but still it works. I think when he focus on the value and focus on the color, the lighting so much, everything else feels a little bit secondary even. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, there's so much looseness here. This is really nice. I think like almost every artist, like at a certain point, they start to loosen up so much, they just don't even care anymore. It's like, I don't have anything else to prove. I'm at this point, I just paint what I like to paint. I don't need to prove it to you that I can paint. I don't need to prove it to you that I can do nice brushstroke. I just want to just paint and have fun. And I feel like at this stage, he's certainly, just doing that, enjoying the painting. And actually, some of the color reminds me of Sargent's painting as well. It's very nice and beautiful. Look at all the shape connection. Over here connects down here with the shadow over here, connects to the cast shadow to the little figure here. Nice and simple. Okay, marine and coastal, so there's some water work. Okay, again, look at all the shape connection that he make. So if you look at this at a glance, you just see the like very strong positive and negative shape, and then you go in and start to look at some of the details, and you start to see them as boats and wires and things like that, and little people over here. So yeah, it's all about establishing a big major shape and start to have details within it. Still very, very beautiful. I just really like how loose he makes things. Just have so much confidence that he doesn't really, it doesn't really care. It doesn't really want to make everything perfect. And that's something that you definitely need when you're painting watercolor, just that sense of confidence and not afraid of being imperfection. Really like the atmosphere in this painting, just like looks like a beautiful misty morning. This is like wonderful, wonderful painting. Like the scale looks really epic. Like this is probably like a little indication of figures and stuff on this huge boat. Yeah, this big tanker is just really, really huge. And just look at how he connects this big shape here. Like, you know, it doesn't really even bother that much with the detail underneath here. Just the big shape, right? This black paint of the boat, it connects to the shadow here, and the shadow of the dog casting on the boat, and so he just connect all the shadow shape together, and this little pockets of light, it just pops the whole thing forward. It's just really beautiful, really epic. You can really sense the lighting here. Again, beautiful shape design composition. This arch connects to the boat, and that connects to another boat. Simple and effective. Really nice and moody here. We like that. I like the way he treat the water, just like very, very loose, you know, with a little bit of, you know, with a lot of soft edges and things like that. And again, he doesn't really bother to make everything perfect. That's not his priority. He just want to capture the sense of light and scenery here. Again, beautiful sense of scale. Look at that beautiful sky, and then the people down here and everything. Oh, look at that huge cloud shadow casting on those clouds, and you can sense the layers of the cloud here. Let me zoom it in a little bit. Yeah, look at just that big light. You know, this figure here really shows the scale of the scenery, and that big cloud shadow and that little pockets of light is just really glowing. Again, look at how simple those shapes are, and how much connection he makes with all the shapes. This is really nice. I really like the way he treats wet surfaces. Again, he don't have like a really sophisticated brushstroke, you know, if I may say that, right? These are just like big, you know, almost kind of like blobby shapes and stuff, but it, you know, it looks nice and clean. But he knows that there's some sharp reflection here, so you can read this as like a wet surface very, very clearly. Like he really knows his shapes, actually, shape and value. This almost looks like two eyes and a mouse. It's kind of funny. Townscape. So much kind of this golden lighting here. It's almost like his signature look. Like, look at this building that he's painting. I'm pretty sure there's, you know, a huge amount of detail here, but he know where he just need to indicate a few 1, 2, 3 brush stroke that just describe all this complicated shapes and sculptures inside of this building. And these are just like shapes, silhouettes and stuff. Give the detail where the detail is due. Other than that, just simple indications. Very beautiful. Look at those lightings. simply beautiful. Look at how big the sky is. He's not afraid of empty space, which is something that we can all learn from too. Like sometimes people are really afraid of empty space. I do too. Like sometimes when there's huge chunk of empty space, I will feel like, yeah, it feels unfinished, but it doesn't really matter for him. He just want to indicate a sense of scale here. So big empty space, why not? It's a really nice little painting here. Really bold composition. Just look at that shape. The shadow shoots down and leads your eye to this figure wearing red. And the rest of it are all in the shadow. There's two little figures here and very subtle. It's almost like evening scene. The contrast is very, very low, but it's beautiful, kind of like in twilight evening scenery. Look at this light just glowing. Yeah, look at that glowing light. And look at how absent things are. Oftentimes it's what you don't paint. It's not what you paint in watercolor. And that just leaves your mind for a lot of imagination. You imagine there's a lot of light down here. It might even be like very crowded with a lot of people and stuff, but you don't see anyone. You don't see any figure here, but you can simply tell that there's this like a crowded area with a lot of light just by looking at the values that he established. The quiet canal in Venice. Again, very, very beautiful, this shape connection here. Yeah, look at how loosely he indicate those sculptures, and inside of shadow, he just some dark wet onto wet treatments. And again, it's not about painting detail, it's about to paint it rich. So look at all the richness in this, the subtle value changes and some big soft shape, but you feel there's a lot of things going on in here, even though he didn't paint any of that. But you can feel that. And look at all the form he brought out with simple brush strokes. Again, just beautiful, beautiful lighting. You can really feel the lights glowing. And look at that little pockets of light. And with the little figures, the rim light of the figure. It just really draw your eye in. You can really feel like you're there. Okay, some figures. Just doing a little bit of sketching here for this figure. Doing some really quick sketch for the for the gesture of the figures, the workers, whatever. Yep, there's some sketch works. So drawing still very, very important, even though your final goal might be making paintings. Drawings are still very important. Yeah, look at all the gestures. I really like that. I can feel the sense of depth here, and I like how much light and how simple it is. People playing golf, just that light, you can feel like the person is kind of bending forward, trying to hit the ball. Very nice, very beautiful. Look at all that figures. Yeah, he doesn't paint a lot of figures. He's probably more known for his landscape work, but his figures, I think, is really, really good as well. Okay, indoor subject. There's a few. Wow, good. This is probably inside. Inside this Egyptian tomb, but the light source is from the outside, so you can just really feel that the light is penetrating and coming into the space. It's this little figure hiding in the back. Again, it's just the simplicity of everything he does, but it works. You feel the sense of the place. Again, richness. There's just like a lot of richness in his paintings. It's more like a metal worker and blacksmith or something. I get a sense of light and glowing. It's painting a cat. Very nice. The artist painting. Even a little bit of flower. Nice, like he can paint everything. Very nice and beautiful. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for going through this book with me again. Definitely a lot of beautiful works to enjoy. Each painting you can really spend a lot of time just looking at it. So I don't know if this book's still available for you. Hopefully you can find your own copy if you're interested. But yeah, again, there's a lot to be like and a lot to learn from his work. So I never met him in person before, obviously, but I think through Andy's workshop and learning from Andy, definitely get a lot of the sense. But I think learn from Andy definitely just gives me a glimpse of how Trevor's work really influenced Andy, and then I learned quite a bit from Andy as well. So hopefully I can also incorporate some of the especially the sense of lighting and the shape design and the simplicity in my own painting as well. And like I said, I think this year, the 2021, is definitely an year that I am starting to explore my own way of painting. Now it can still have a little bit, might still find a little bit of Andy Evanson's influence in my painting or Joseph Bookish influence in my painting, but this year is really for me to kind of explore and try out different things, and hopefully I can come up with something new, like naturally. So yeah, again, very, very happy to be able to share this book with you, and I hope you enjoy this video. This is not something that I usually do going through a book, but I hope to do more of this in the future if you guys enjoy that. So if this is your first time, please like and subscribe, and I will have another painting demo for you next week. This is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. See you next time.